This video is about my experiences with Panasonic's GH5 cameras, which started to be on the market in 2017. I will try to explain why, in my opinion, the GH5 series is not only holding up well, despite its 8-year-old technology. In fact, I would like to go a step further and say the series is still sufficient for many filmmakers today and has absolutely no reason to hide behind current video cameras. Even compared to Panasonic's own GH6, GH7 or G9 II, there are some advantages that I personally wouldn't want to miss. More on that in a minute. For those who are interested, this video is shot with a GH5 in HLG mode at ISO 1600 with a Pixco 0.71 speed booster and an old Carl Zeiss Jena 80mm prime lens. So let's get into it. What we have here is the GH5 series consisting of the GH5, the GH5S and the GH5 II. When the GH5 was released in 2017, it was widely praised. The introduction of its sister model, the GH5S, and a few years later the Mark II, also demonstrated Panasonic's confidence in the GH5. The original GH5 already offered 4:2 chroma subsampling at 10-bit color depth internally, dual SD card slots, in-body image stabilization, Ultra HD, Cinema 4K, and even OpenGate 5.7K 10-bit, which can be used with both regular and anamorphic lenses. There is also unlimited recording, a waveform monitor, full HDMI and much more. The GH5S has much better low-light capabilities, as can be seen here. These scenes were shot with a GH5S at ISO 12800 and using only available light, the candles. So with the GH5 and the complementary GH5S, I'd say you're ready for virtually any scenario. For auto shots though, I often prefer the GH5 Mark II because of its significantly brighter LCD screen. So this is one thing that can make using the GH5 and GH5S in sunlight quite challenging. For such cases, there are sunshades available which can help. I use one similar to this one and it does a good job. As for high-res slow motion, the GH5 Mark II offers 4K 60p and 10-bit instead of up to 30p like the original GH5. However, I rarely film in slow motion and to me slow motion feels somewhat overused. In my opinion, the image from the GH5 Mark II looks like it is a little bit noisier and also the noise is not as pleasantly reminiscent of film grain as it is with the original GH5. Still, it works well. Speaking of noise, the HLG color profile of the GH5 series shows much less noise than V-Log L but maintains the same dynamic range. So with the right LUTs, I would always recommend shooting in HLG instead of V-Log L, unless the footage needs to be synchronized with V-Log footage from other cameras. What many users consider to be a clear disadvantage of the GH5 series is the autofocus. Since I usually focus manually, I can't really judge that, but I trust what users say about it. Finally, here are the reasons why I still use the GH5 series and not, for example, the GH6 or GH7. Unlike the newer models, there is a battery grip available for the GH5 series that essentially doubles battery life and makes operating the camera much easier and more comfortable in simple run-and-gun situations. The company SmallRig also offers a half cage for this setup if it needs to be rigged up. A good solution, for example, is to leave a regular battery in the camera as a backup and use a USB-C dummy adapter in the battery grip. The adapter is called DMW DCC18. This way you get external power via USB-C even for the old GH5 and GH5S. The GH5 II can be powered via USB-C directly. Another advantage over its successors, in my opinion, is that the GH5 does not require an active fan, which would unfortunately be audible in critical environments. The GH5 series is only passively cooled, and yet there are no problems with overheating. What really disappointed me about the GH6 was that it is much noisier than the GH5 at low ISO values. The unit was not defective, and I still wonder what Panasonic did there, apart from the well-known streaking issue. The G9 II in particular, which is technically on par with the GH7, seems to suffer from some weird audio problem that is being discussed on YouTube. This issue does not occur with the GH5 series. In fact, it offers surprisingly good and low noise preamps. I can't comment on the GH6 or GH7 here. The GH5 series has just a very nice build quality and is very robust. I still remember when my GH5 fell to the ground from a height of 1 meter, and it still worked perfectly afterwards. Very reliable. Some users report that the build quality of newer Panasonic cameras, such as the G9 II, may have declined slightly. There is a view that MFT cannot be taken seriously, and when you consider the size of the sensor, you might actually get the impression that MFT cameras are more like toys. Now, take a look at these scenes from short films we shot with the GH5 series.
But at the same time, it feels so real.
Right. I've got a non-believer here. Eradicate him.
What?
Eradicate the heretic. Erase him.
What do you want from me?
All they do is blindly rushing around. I can't reach them anymore. Their minds are locked. Still I wonder, are they all like this now?
Was there really no other way?
Who could have imagined that a deer can cause so much pain?
Listen to me! Why can't you hear me?
At least, well, you know what the ambulance report said. Everyone in the country who watches the news knows that.
That they didn't suffer?
Wanna join us?
What we are witnessing is not running from pursuers, but from one's own memories, haunted by feelings of guilt, which can be real painful.
Did you know that when combined with a speed booster and some fast lenses, you can get a field of view almost identical to the film industry standard Super 35 and a depth of field that's almost as shallow? MFT is also more versatile than larger sensors when it comes to using different lenses. You can use native lenses, APS-C lenses, or full-frame lenses, with or without a speed booster, solely depending on your needs. The sensor's 4:3 aspect ratio allows you to use anamorphic lenses with a squeeze factor of 2, so you can take full advantage of anamorphic image characteristics such as oval bokeh, etc. Apart from that, I really like using the combination of a Viltrox 0.71 speed booster and a Samyang T1.5 35mm full-frame lens. You can get one used on eBay for around $200. The full-frame equivalent of this combination is a focal length of approximately 50mm, which is a nice standard focal length, a maximum aperture in terms of light transmission of approximately T1.1 and a depth of field resembling approximately T2.1, provided you change the distance to the subject slightly so that you end up with the same framing. Really cool, isn't it? Of course, it's not always about the shallow depth of field. Sometimes you will just need a deeper one. This is very easy to achieve with MFT2. When it comes to dynamic range, the GH5 series offers around 11 to 12 usable stops. This may not sound like much by today's standards, but just take a look at high contrast scenes like these. For me, that's perfectly adequate, provided you stick to the simple method of exposing to the right. Which you should always keep in mind anyway. A very interesting fact about the GH5S is that it maintains its dynamic range across the entire ISO range. With 8K video cameras on the rise, you may be wondering whether the GH5 is still sufficient today. Well, let's bear in mind that camera manufacturers have to constantly improve their products in order to remain competitive. Higher resolutions, higher frame rates, higher dynamic range, and so on. In a way, that's great, of course. But if we ask ourselves what makes sense in the end, where is the point at which we decide for ourselves whether something is sufficient or not? Did you know that even movies in most theaters today are projected with a resolution between 2K and 4K? 8K certainly has its advantages, for example cropping in post, but in order to enjoy the benefits of 8K when filming, you will need lenses that can match this resolution in terms of the resolving performance. And secondly, you've got to be at least twice as careful when it comes to manual focusing. So, why did I choose the GH5 back then? These were the main reasons. 10-bit color depth, as it gives you much more room for color grading compared to 8-bit. The risk of banding is much lower, something that had always bothered me, and is largely solved by 10-bit. UHD 4K, as this is a common standard for years now. In-body image stabilization, as it vastly improves handheld filming. unlimited recording, which I needed for interviews, concerts, etc. Later on, I really began to appreciate the anamorphic capabilities, the waveform monitor, the low noise preamps, and more. When the GH5 came out in 2017, it was said to be a great and capable film camera. Now it's considered outdated in some way, and the GH5 has taken its place. In a few years, the GH7 will also be considered outdated, and the GH8 or 9 will be perceived in the same way as the GH5 was back then. This way it goes on and on. Companies like Panasonic, Sony, Canon, and so on, they are pushing technical boundaries, and yes, that's great, that's really great. But as we all know, good films depend only partly on technical performance. Let's have a quick look at these very popular films. Did you know that these classics, among many others, were all shot on 35mm film with an exposed image area of up to about 24 by 18mm and with a usable dynamic range of up to 12 stops, sometimes lower? Sure, film stock has its unmistakable texture and color, but with a speed booster and some fast lenses, the GH5 series can come impressively close to that 35mm film look in terms of field of view, depth of field, and even dynamic range. What do you think about the GH5 series still being used today? Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.